Every NFL offseason, teams convince themselves they fixed everything. New coaches, new draft picks, new contracts, new promises. Fans start talking playoffs. Analysts start throwing around words like culture shift and turning the corner. And every year, somebody is completely wrong. Because while some franchises quietly build contenders, others destroy their future before week 1 even starts. And this offseason, I think several teams may have changed their entire trajectory, for better or worse. Some of these takes are going to sound insane right now. A few might make fan bases angry. Good, because 6 months from now, one of these predictions is going to look obvious. Today we're breaking down the biggest winners and biggest losers of the 2026 NFL offseason. Teams, players, situations, and we're not sugarcoating anything. Drop your biggest winner in the comments before we start, because I guarantee at least one pick on this list is going to make people furious. Let's get into it. I never thought I'd say this sentence again, but the Tennessee Titans might actually be building something dangerous. And if you watched this team over the last 2 years, that sounds ridiculous. Because what were the Titans recently? Undisciplined football, confusing decisions, bad offense, bad defense, a rookie quarterback thrown into chaos. The 2025 season wasn't disappointing. It was borderline unwatchable. 3 wins, 14 losses, bottom of the league offensively, bottom of the league defensively. Usually teams are terrible at one thing. Tennessee somehow mastered being terrible at everything. That's difficult to do. And I said this before, bringing Brian Callahan back felt wrong. I didn't see evidence that justified another year. Then, Cam Ward's rookie season became exactly what people feared. Chaos, inconsistency, pressure, expectations. But here's why I'm suddenly paying attention. The Titans looked at their roster, and instead of pretending everything was fine, they attacked weaknesses aggressively. That's rare. NFL teams love denial. Tennessee chose urgency. On defense, they brought in John Franklin Myers. And honestly, I think NFL fans underrate him badly. Put him beside Jeffrey Simmons under Robert Saleh. That's not a minor move. That's potentially the beginning of an identity. Because Saleh understands defensive fronts. He understands pressure. He understands building units that make quarterbacks miserable. Then Tennessee doubled down. Jermaine Johnson arrives. More talent, more disruption, more attitude. Then the draft. Carnell Tate, Kelrick Falk, Anthony Hill Jr., Anthony Hill. Young players with upside entering a roster desperate for explosive talent. Here's where people disagree. The Wan'Dale Robinson contract. I already know comments will say they overspent. Maybe. But context matters. Pair Robinson with Carnell Tate's rookie deal, and suddenly Tennessee is spending significantly less than elite WR1 money, while potentially getting comparable production if development goes right. That's roster construction. That's planning. The scary part? If Cam Ward improves even slightly, and I mean slightly, Tennessee could become one of those teams nobody wants to play in November. Not because they're elite overnight, because they're finally competent. And competent teams with young quarterbacks become dangerous faster than people expect. I don't know if Tennessee makes the playoffs. I don't know if they're contenders. But for the first time in years, I think Titans fans have a reason to believe. That's a massive win. I owe Washington fans honesty because entering last season, I wasn't buying in. I thought regression was coming. Why? Older roster, unreal playoff run. A rookie quarterback winning road playoff games felt unsustainable. Sometimes magical seasons stay magical. Usually reality arrives. And 2025 looked much closer to reality. One problem stood above everything else: pass rush. Washington couldn't pressure quarterbacks consistently. In today's NFL, that's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. You lose eventually. The Commanders recognize that immediately. That's why this offseason matters. Odafe Owe arrives. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson arrives. Joshua Joseph gets drafted, a player many believed fell too far. Then Sonny Styles, Leo Chanel, Nick Cross, Amick Robertson. Quietly, Washington rebuilt pieces of its defense with purpose. Not panic, purpose. That's different. Then you remember Jayden Daniels exists. And here's something I've started believing. Elite young quarterbacks change rebuilding timelines completely. If Daniels keeps progressing, Washington's window arrives earlier than expected. I still question parts of the receiving core. I still wonder about offensive consistency. Those concerns are real. But here's the bigger truth. Washington raised its floor. And sometimes raising your floor matters more than chasing ceilings. Bad teams chase miracles. Smart teams eliminate weaknesses. The Commanders did that. I don't know if Washington wins the NFC. I know they're more serious than they were a year ago. That's enough for winner status. This pick might sound strange because Fernando Mendoza hasn't thrown an NFL pass. Not one. But I think he's one of the biggest winners of the offseason, and here's why. The NFL spent years doing something reckless with rookie quarterbacks. Throw them in immediately. Sink or swim. No patience, no protection, no development. And sometimes it works. Sometimes you get stars. Other times careers die before they begin. The Raiders are choosing differently. Kirk Cousins arrives as the bridge. And people love mocking Kirk Cousins until they need stability. You know what Cousins provides? Professionalism, preparation, information. Veteran quarterbacks can either help young players or protect their own jobs. Cousins has consistently been willing to teach. That's valuable. Pair that with Clint Kubiak, someone Cousins already worked with successfully. And suddenly Mendoza enters an environment designed for development instead of survival. That's rare. Then look around him. Improved offensive line. Tyler Linderbaum at center, helping with communication. Better infrastructure. Young quarterback success isn't just talent, it's environment. We ignore that because highlights are easier. If Mendoza becomes the Raiders franchise quarterback someday, people will credit talent. They'll forget patience. They'll forget structure. They'll forget development. I won't. Because what Las Vegas is doing right now feels smarter than most organizations admit. Mendoza may not start immediately. That's exactly why he's winning. Now let's talk about a situation that honestly frustrates me because Jeremiah Love did nothing wrong. Nothing. By every indication, he's talented, mature, financially responsible, the type of player organizations dream about. Yet somehow, his NFL situation already feels brutal. Look at Arizona's quarterback room entering 2026. Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, Carson Beck. Tell me honestly, how many games is this team winning? 5? Maybe? The NFC West is unforgiving. Every week feels difficult. Expectations disappear fast when divisions become brutal. Jeremiah Love could play outstanding football and still lose repeatedly. That's the reality nobody likes discussing. Great players don't automatically create great situations. Adrian Peterson nearly carried Minnesota historically in 2012, and even that comparison feels unfair because asking rookie running backs to rescue weak rosters is unrealistic. Here's my fear. Arizona spends years searching, while Love wastes early development seasons carrying impossible expectations. And once losing becomes culture, escaping becomes harder. Maybe Arizona surprises me. NFL history says hope isn't strategy. Right now, this looks like one of the hardest situations any top prospect entered this year. That's why Arizona lands here. Not because Jeremiah Love failed. Then draft night happened. And this is where comments may explode, because some people love thinking long-term. Fine. But championship windows demand urgency. My limo sitting available felt like opportunity. Immediate contributor. Weapon. Insurance. Instead, developmental quarterback. Future planning over present maximizing. Maybe Ty Simpson becomes incredible eventually. That's possible. My issue isn't talent, it's timing. Because when your quarterback is nearing 40 and still playing elite football, eventually every move should ask one question. Does this improve our chances right now? The Rams answer differently. Then, Davante Adams' uncertainty enters conversation. Aging receivers, future questions. Suddenly adding immediate offensive talent feels even more logical. Here's the analogy I keep returning to. Imagine climbing a mountain for years. Sacrifices, planning. Smart choices. Then, near the top, you choose a harder route for reasons nobody fully understands. That's what the Rams' offseason felt like. Brilliant setup. Confusing final decision. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Ty Simpson becomes genius-level planning. If so, I'll admit it. But sitting here today, I think Los Angeles became slightly less dangerous in the present while protecting the future. Championship teams rarely prioritize futures over open windows. That's why they're losers. This might surprise people because Jacksonville isn't bad. That's important. They're not rebuilding. They're not hopeless. Trevor Lawrence played phenomenal football in stretches. Pass rush exists. Coaching intrigue exists. The floor remains solid. So why loser status? Expectations. Expectations change everything. A 13-win season rewrites standards overnight. Fans stop celebrating relevance. They demand contention. The Jaguars entered a different category. And once you're judged like contenders, off-season mistakes become heavier. Losing Devin Lloyd matters. A lot. Elite linebackers don't always receive attention because highlight culture ignores consistency. But watch defenses carefully. Communication, positioning, reactions. Removing high-level defensive production creates holes. Replacing those holes isn't automatic. Then Travis Etienne leaves. Again, debates about running back value miss context. Scheme fit matters. Versatility matters. Reliable offensive pieces matter. Jacksonville lost familiarity and production simultaneously. Could replacements emerge? Absolutely. NFL surprises happen yearly. But betting on unknown production replacing proven contributors carries risk. Then the draft created mixed reactions. I won't destroy a class before snaps occur, because football history humiliates premature certainty. Still, questions exist. Combine questionable replacements with rising expectations, and suddenly pressure increases. Here's what worries me most. Teams often believe previous success guarantees future success. It doesn't. Momentum disappears fast in the NFL. One weaker offseason shifts trajectories. One misread roster evaluation creates years of consequences. I don't think Jacksonville collapses. I think the distance between their ceiling and true contention widened. That's enough for concern. Something quietly changed this offseason across the league. More teams seem willing to prioritize environment over desperation. That's huge. For years, franchises treated rookie quarterbacks like emergency solutions. Start immediately. Fix everything. Absorb blame. Now, more patience. Better supporting casts. Veteran bridges. Development plans. The league may finally be learning. If that trend continues, careers extend. Bust rates change. Entire organizations benefit. Watch this closely over the next 5 years because it could reshape quarterback development entirely. The hardest thing in football isn't drafting talent. It isn't signing free agents. It isn't winning press conferences in March. The hardest thing is correctly understanding where your franchise actually stands. Are you rebuilding? Contending? 1 move away? 2 years away? Teams destroy themselves by misreading timelines. That's why off-season winners and losers matter. Because sometimes the biggest moments happen before week 1 ever arrives. Maybe Tennessee shocks people. Maybe Cincinnati becomes terrifying again. Maybe the Rams prove me wrong and lift a trophy. Maybe Arizona escapes the situation everyone fears. That's football. Uncertainty keeps us watching. But today, these are the teams and players whose futures change the most. Now I want your take. Which team won the offseason? Which franchise made decisions we'll laugh at in 2 years? And what's the hottest prediction nobody wants to say yet? Drop it below. Because NFL fans never agree. And honestly, that's what makes this sport great. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe because we're chasing something bigger here than reactions. Before we continue, I want to say something because people hear winner and immediately assume Super Bowl contender. That's not what this list means. Sometimes winning an offseason means finally building a foundation. Sometimes losing an offseason means wasting a championship window. Context matters. Expectations matter. And the next few teams, expectations changed everything. I know. I already know what some of you are thinking. The Giants? Really? The same franchise that spent years turning optimism into disappointment? The same team that somehow found new ways to start seasons buried before Halloween? Yes, those Giants. Because for the first time in a long time, I think something feels different. And maybe that's dangerous to say because NFL fans have been tricked by offseason optimism before. But stay with me. Forget records for a second. Forget narratives. Look at structure. Look at direction. Look at intent. The Giants didn't make random moves. They made connected moves. That's important. Organizations fail when decisions happen in isolation. Winning teams build ecosystems. New York started doing that. Isaiah likely arrives. Instantly, Jackson Dart gets a weapon capable of creating mismatches. Darnell Mooney arrives. More speed, more separation, more pressure on defenses. Patrick Ricard enters the picture, and suddenly formations become harder to predict. Then the trenches, because football eventually becomes simple. If your offensive line collapses, everything collapses. Maui Noah could change things there. Interior stability changes offenses more than casual fans realize. Then there's Cam Scatterbo. Physical running style, attitude, identity. Teams searching for culture often start with players who bring violence to the run game. That's not glamorous. It's effective. Now let's address the uncomfortable conversation. Dexter Lawrence leaving. Losing elite talent hurts. Always. You don't replace players like that easily. But NFL front offices constantly choose between emotional attachment and long-term planning. The Giants chose planning. Whether they're right? Time decides. Yet here's the thing keeping me optimistic. In 2025, the Giants repeatedly allowed huge point totals and buried themselves before games stabilized. That destroys quarterback development. It destroys confidence. Better defensive depth changes trajectories. I don't think New York suddenly becomes a juggernaut. I think something more dangerous happens. Competence returns. Stability returns. And stable franchises eventually surprise people. That's why they're winners. The Bengals frustrated me for years because watching elite quarterback talent get wasted feels painful. Joe Burrow healthy is one of the best quarterbacks alive. That's not controversial anymore. The issue was always whether Cincinnati would build around him aggressively enough. This offseason, I think they finally understood urgency because championship windows don't stay open forever. Fans act like greatness guarantees opportunities. History disagrees. Ask teams that watched windows close overnight. Cincinnati attacked trenches. Good, they needed to. Boy Mayfield arrives. More edge pressure, more disruption. Kosshausen gets drafted. Young upside. Then comes the move that changes everything. Dexter Lawrence. Let me explain why interior defensive linemen like Lawrence alter entire units. Edge rushers receive highlights. Interior monsters create panic. Double teams. Protection shifts. Mistakes. One elite interior player makes everyone else better. That's multiplier football. Suddenly Miles Murphy benefits. Suddenly other rushers get easier matchups. Suddenly quarterbacks speed up reads because pockets collapse faster. Then add Jonathan Allen. Add Brian Cook. Add more depth. Look around the AFC North. Baltimore remains terrifying. Absolutely. But divisions evolve quickly. If Cincinnati's defensive improvements become real, Joe Burrow won't need to perform miracles every week. That's important because sustainable contenders reduce pressure on stars. They don't increase it. Here's my prediction. If health cooperates, Cincinnati becomes one of the teams nobody wants in January. Because elite quarterback plus improved trenches equals danger. Every time. I think people forgot how quickly the Bengals can become frightening. They may remember soon. This next one is complicated because I need to say two things simultaneously. Number one, the Rams absolutely could win the Super Bowl. Number two, I think parts of their offseason damaged their championship odds. Both can be true. Matthew Stafford keeps refusing to age normally. Sean McVay remains one of football's best minds. Talent exists. Experience exists. Yet sometimes contenders lose because they plan too far ahead while windows remain open. That's my concern. Look at their offseason before the draft. Aggressive. Smart. Jaylen Watson arrives. Trent McDuffie trade. Secondary improves. You can see the vision.